for tuning in to the Agronomy Answers podcast. I'm Zach Hefty, and today I'm joined by Seth Hansen, which is Hefty Seed Company Northern Research Lead, where he's in northern Minnesota and North Dakota. Thanks for joining us today, Seth.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited, little nervous, but
It's okay to be a little bit nervous. It's all right. But so just to start off, what does it mean to be the Northern Research Lead? What does that entail? What are you up to?
so my role entails a lot of mostly on the seed side with our Hefty Seed brand and Zanesto Seed brand, testing new products, picking products for the lineup, kind of looking for products for certain areas. Like we go west into North Dakota with a little drier. We come into the valley where it's a little heavier soil. So we need not just one product for each store. We need multiple products. So we look at different products in different areas, and then looking at our naturals lineup and testing a lot of that stuff with growers and in the field. So it's a lot of fun, hands-on stuff that we do.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about what you do now, but this episode's going to be more about your background, how you got into agriculture. So where did you grow up at?
So I grew up in Crookston, Minnesota on the family farm. Still operating today. My dad and uncle farm together, much like your situation. And now I have an older brother and cousin who are taking that over. Grew up there on the farm I have 3 siblings, an older sister and a younger sister, and then my brother who's farming. Grew up there, played a lot of sports, I didn't really do a lot of the farming work, besides harvest. I really got to help out a lot there, but Dad really never pushed us to do a lot of the extra work on the farm. They had plenty of help. I really got to, enjoy the farm. It was a great place to grow up. Really, my first experience on the egg retail side was customer appreciation days. Dad always took us to those, and they were a lot of fun, and I got to see reps and sales agronomists, and I was like, that looks like an interesting role. They were always happy, always fun. So that's kind of where I got interested in that side of the business. So Dad really pushed us to go and get jobs off the farm. I started out as soon as I could drive. I worked at the hardware store in town with a really good family friend of ours, and that was a great experience. And then right out of high school, a summer job, I worked for a beverage distributor delivering beverages. And so that was, some manual labor and a little bit of sales in that role. And so that's kind of where I got started. And as soon as I was looking for colleges, that's when I really knew I wanted to be in ag in some capacity. And that's kind of where that all came from.
So where did that switch from not doing things in ag to now you wanted to be in ag for basically the rest of your life because you love being on the farm? Was there a point or a situation or a story or some point in your life where you're like, wow, the farm is great. I love this. I want to work with farmers or work around farmers.
So that really started, like I said, I got to help out at harvest a lot. And, you're in the combine, you're listening to the radio, and you're hearing all these farm reports and different things. And that's kind of where this really is interesting. And I always loved science growing up. So science to me was extremely interesting, being outdoors. And so I never really got out of the outdoors. And that's where this agronomy role really took off for me because I got to be outside all the time. So right in college, I went to the University of Minnesota Crookston. So I still haven't left home yet, but I graduated there with an agronomy degree and a minor in ag economics. And ever since then, I've been in ag retail up until I had one opportunity that I couldn't turn down, and I got to be an ag lender at a bank. I thought maybe that would be something, set hours. This will be really nice, and it was an awesome opportunity. I learned a ton of stuff, of a different side of the egg business, which was really cool. But it also taught me that I wanted to be outside, and sitting behind a desk wasn't where I wanted to be. And so that's really how it all kind of went about. So I was really fortunate to have a lot of great opportunities leading up to where I am.
Yeah, and now you made it into the Hefty organization.
Yeah.
When did you start at Hefty, and how did you kind of get connected or think that would be a good opportunity?
They always say it's who you know, and I really got lucky with that because I had some really good people that I worked with at my previous job, and one of them actually left to work with the Hefty as a sales agronomist, which he reached out to me, and he was telling me how great everything was and how much he enjoyed it, and I said, well, if you're looking for a seed guy, let me know. And I always joke, but little did I know that comment would lead to within 24 hours me talking to Brian on the phone. So it just happened to be everybody was down in Baltic at the Morton Center for their seed kickoff meeting when I said this comment to him, and he was on his way down. And so he started talking to a couple of people, and pretty soon I'm talking to the business lead for North Dakota on the phone, and he calls me up and talked to him for a while, and he goes, well, Brian wants to talk to you tomorrow morning. He'll be driving up that direction, and he wanted to talk to you on the phone. I was a little starstruck, of course. Brian's on TV all the time with Darren, and I'm going, whoa, what's going on here? So I was nervous, I was excited, and that's how it all came about, was it who I knew and my relationships that I had built up previously.
Yeah, which is pretty cool story of getting into it. It just kind of happened quickly,
Very quickly.
Which it was only a few years ago when that happened, right?
Yeah, 2021, September of 2021 was when I first started, and that was a good day for me to just be a part of this, and coming down here and meeting everybody. It really was a nice transition for me to work with people who are so hands-on. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it's cool to hear that side of the story. I actually haven't heard that story before, so
yeah,
it's pretty cool. So now that you're doing this research, you talked about how you liked seed, you like to be hands-on.
Yep.
Obviously, research is a lot of different things, but when you're working with seed specifically, what does that mean for you? What does that entail when you're day-to-day hands-on? What are you looking for? What are you trying to do with all of these different trials?
So on the seed side, we're always always looking for something new, something better. We have a really solid lineup that we're trying to improve upon every year. And so with the seed brand and looking at experimentals, we're trying to find something that will improve an older product, or move into the lineup and take a place of an older product. Also now for us, with more pests coming into North Dakota, corn borer being, rootworm corn borer being one of those, we're looking at a lot more traits. So we're seeing a lot more stuff going from Roundup Double Pros into traded stuff. So we're looking at a lot new traded products. We're getting some new genetics on the soybean side that we're looking at. So there's just a lot of new stuff that's coming in. So it's really exciting. And there's just a lot of stuff to look at and kind of filter through before it makes it into our bag and out to the growers.
Yeah, and you just mentioned North Dakota. Well, North Dakota compared to here, there's a lot of differences, and especially there's a lot of different crops and stuff like that. So there's a lot more things kind of going on and new stuff like you just mentioned. Is that what you see as the main differences? There's a bunch more new stuff, or what? Well, how do you see your region, the northern North Dakota, northern Minnesota, versus down here, or really anywhere else in the country?
We're really fortunate because it's a fun area, like you said, with the diversity of crops that we have. Growing up with sugar beets on the farm, growing up with wheat, those were just normal to me. And I come down to this area, and you may see a wheat field once in a while, but there's not many of them. So the diversity in crops. I mean, guys will grow. I know one grower I spoke with. He had an opportunity to grow 13 crops on his farm. And to me, that's just amazing that we have that much opportunity. But that also makes more opportunity for us as agronomists, especially with our naturals brand. We got a lot of different products that we can try and see if we can help, bring some sort of yield increase to growers on different crops, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool every time we get to go up there, and every field, it could be a wide variety of different crops, not just corn and soybeans pretty much that are down here.
Yeah.
But then there's more agronomic challenges as well. So what would you say is some of the top agronomic challenges in your area that you're facing or trying to put in trials to try to help solve?
Cold weather is probably one of our biggest agronomic trials. If we could extend that growing season and have our GDUs accumulate quickly, it seems like every year we're dealing with slow emergence and trying to get things moving, and so that's definitely one of the big things. Coming on to the Hefty research team, and if you come to any of the workshops, you're going to hear about drainage. You're going to hear about soil health. That's been the biggest eye opener for me, because coming from the co-op I worked at, we didn't do a lot of soil sampling. We had third parties do that, and so we reading a soil test, looking at our magnesium levels, and seeing those different things in our soil up there. There's a lot of similarities to things down here, but we don't have quite as much natural drainage as you guys do. So you can see for a long ways when you're up in our area, and getting those fields to drain internally, and trying to get that soil to balance is a difficult thing, but it's really exciting for these guys. So I would say our soils are similar, but we also have some different challenges with our drainage.
So, of all the different trials and different things you've learned in the past 4 going on 5 years now, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've kind of learned as being one of the research team? There's a lot of research that we do at Hefty. What are some of the biggest lessons that you might have taken away? I mean, you just mentioned one about the drainage and just about
Yeah.
soil fertility and reading a soil test, but that's I wouldn't say that's like a specific trial, but what other things may have you learned so far?
So one of the coolest things, and you've worked with our research team as well, there's nothing off limits. Any idea is on the table. You hear Brian and Darren talk about let's prove it in the field, and that's exactly what we do, which is awesome. So I was fortunate enough that where I live in Crookston, we have a field just a couple miles away, and so my wife and my kids, we got to go and see that field every day, which was awesome. So I got to experience that with them, but the crazy trials is definitely one of the most fun and educational things that we've done, because we just don't see a lot of that. We see data, but we don't see a lot of that in the field. And to have different populations and to have planting depths for our guys to look at and to monitor throughout the year and see how that changes plants and how that can change the way we farm. We're not looking, our goal isn't to look for something to sell, it's to look to learn and make better agronomic decisions, and to make more money in the roundabout way of everybody's making more money, which is awesome. So to me, those trials that we do with the crazy trials and what we take away from those, whether it's the herbicide trials, the planting trials, I mean, all those things encompass, just an awesome story that we get to deliver to growers and educate them as well as our agronomists.
So you just mentioned your family a little bit. This is a family-owned company, family-run company. There's a lot of family involved here. How does the family kind of get involved on your side? You just mentioned them just a little bit in the field.
Okay, so I am really fortunate on both sides of my family. So my wife, Molly, she owns the therapy clinic, and she's an occupational therapist in Crookston. Um, so her family owns a farm south of town as well. And then I have three boys. Hatton is the oldest, he's 6. And then the twins, Huck and Hardy, are 3 years old. And they are agronomists at heart right now. So I've got three boys that just love being out in the field with me. They'll come and walk the fields. But I'm really fortunate. So on the research side, the amount of stuff that both of our families bring, I'm sure my family farm gets sick of me coming out there with ideas for them to try, but they usually do it without hesitation. And then the amount of support I get from her family as well has been amazing as far as getting things done. And sometimes my equipment is a little older that I utilize for some of my plots, so I need their help as far as fixing. So I'm really fortunate that I've got a family that allows me to be flexible and travel and do all this stuff. So it's pretty amazing what I got going on at home.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to hear that side of things because don't always talk about it
Right.
just out there in the open, but it's cool to hear that side of things, and just to see how much it takes to get all this research that happens too, because it's going to different farmers, it's going to different fields, going to different plots, it's hauling equipment around, it's fixing up equipment.
Yeah,
It takes a lot to get all these plots in. Would you say?
absolutely. Yeah, we're fortunate with our research team and the equipment with Glenn coming up. I'd like to thank Glenn for he allowed the boys to ride in the combine, and when he was harvesting the plot this year up by our house. So it really does take an awesome team to do this stuff, and I think we've got one of the best.
Okay, a couple last questions to wrap these up.
Yeah.
What kind of excites you the most about research or things going on in your area that could help the future of farming?
The thing that's probably exciting me the most right now, outside of the naturals piece, is balancing the soil. The soil fertility piece, for what I've done in the past and now after what I've learned, I'm more excited about trying different things fertility wise and trying to improve soil drainage. That's one thing. The hard part is that's a long term thing. It's not something I get to just throw in furrow and it's magically going to happen. So having people look at soil drainage, looking at soil samples, to me that's one of the most exciting things that I'm doing right now, just because it's those moments for people to look at things in a different aspect than what they have in the past. And I know the guys really appreciate what we're bringing on the fertility side with different components that way.
Yeah, it takes a while, but it pays off like down the road.
Right.
It's just harder on research because it's just a long-term research
Yeah.
route rather than this month we're going
Right.
to find out what this product does, basically, type
Yep.
of thing.
The other thing that really excites me is the new traits coming. The soybean traits that we're going to have with the Viconic, with the nematode trait coming in the enlist side. I'm really excited for those. We're going to get to see some of those in some of our plots next year, and so I'm excited to see how those look and how they perform in the field. So that's one of the things on the seed side, and then on the natural side, we're going to have a research meeting here later today. We'll talk about some of the things we're going to look at next year, but the ideas that we come up with on the natural side and then for the crazy trials, I'm pretty excited for 2026.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be awesome.
Right.
So since to try to get you out of here, since you're a little bit nervous now, you're opening up a little bit more. It's great. I'm getting some good stories and information. It's been awesome. But to finish things up, what would you tell someone maybe coming out of high school or college that wants to get into agriculture? Maybe what would you tell yourself if coming out of that time frame about the future, or what they can expect, or maybe just some advice for them?
So if I had to give some advice to somebody coming out of high school, going into college, take it all in. It goes really quick. Enjoy what you're doing. There's a lot of different things in agriculture, whether it's the agronomy side, the technology side. Enjoy what you're doing. There's so many things. Nothing is, so far out of reach that you can't do it within ag. We're pretty lucky that we're able to do all these things, so find something that you like and just go for it. Because to me, there's no wrong answers in agriculture, but we're finding out quickly how much there is available for us as an industry, which is awesome.
This has been great stuff, Seth. Thanks so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching this episode of the Agronomy Answers podcast. We really appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.